Tonight we will be taking a closer look at the Batu parliamentary seat, which will be the most crowded fight this general election with 10 candidates in the race. Nearly half of those vying for the seat are also independents. Faye Kwan joins me now with more.
Thank you, Cynthia. Now, this GE15, there will be 108 independent candidates, the highest ever in Malaysian history. Of course, this will lead to many multi-cornered fights. And if we take a look at some of the most heavily contested seats, we can see that Batu comes up top with 10 people throwing their hats in the ring, 4 of which are independents. But not far behind, we've got Ampang with 9 candidates, 3 of which are independents. Sepang, 8 candidates, 2 independents, as well as Bangi and Kota Raja, each with 8 candidates and 3 independents. It's important to note, though, that all of these are urban seats, all with at least 2 independent candidates vying to become the next MP. So the question really is, will they be able to sway the ballot? Well, if we look a little bit closer at Batu, we can see this time round there will be 113,000 plus registered voters. And based on demographics and ethnicity, it will be quite a mixed vote. We can see the Malays make up 43% of all residents here, but that's closely followed by the Chinese at 30%, Indians at 20%, and others at 7%. There will also be more young voters in the mix this time round. In fact, most voters or many voters in Batu will be within the age category of 21 to 39. But who will the urban youth be voting for? Well, before we dive into that, a little look at what took place in Batu in GE14, we can see that it's not impossible for an independent candidate to win the race. P. Prabhakaran managed to achieve this, commanding 60% of all the votes as compared to his contenders in BN, PAS and another independent. Of course, this was when he had the backing by PKR because the incumbent Batu MP at that time, Chua Tian Chang, better known as Tian Chua, was unable to contest. This time, though, Tian Chua is back in the race as an independent. And we can see that he's kind of switched seats with Prabhakaran, who is now a member of PKR. And the two will be going head-to-head with 8 other contestants. Some notable mentions, we've got Barisan Nasional's A. Koilan Pillay, Perikatan Nasional's Azhar Yahya, as well as the 3 other independent candidates. There's lawyer and activist Siti Kasim, Fatia Shazwana, an entrepreneur and better known on social media as Cleopatra, as well as Tu Cheng Huat. So, Cynthia, many dynamics at play here, and it will be very interesting to see the outcomes in Batu this GE15. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Faye. Certainly many dynamics at play, and here to discuss this further, we have political analyst Mujibu Abd Muis. Now, Mujibu, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we get to Batu, I do want to get your thoughts. Record number of independent candidates this GE15, 108, far more than the 24 independent candidates that contested in parliamentary seats in GE14. Can you talk to us about your observations? Why are there more independent candidates throwing their hat into the ring this time around?
Well, politically speaking, this is good for our democratization process. But somehow, we are still hard to see that these independent candidates will getting vote shares from their people, especially when there is confident issues. That people would like to see that people who are coming or contesting for parties is giving them much more stability and confidence rather than independence, since we are talking in the end of the day of the election that majority seats that need to be win in order to form a government. So when independent candidate, let's say, win any constituency, there is a tendency or there is a perception that they may jump into a stable political parties, maybe joining the government or let's say joining an established political party after that. But somehow, this is a very good development in our Malaysian political landscape, and hope to see that there will be more and more people who are willing to contest in election as an independent candidates and offers us a variety in the election.
Certainly. I also want to point out what Faye said earlier about how urban seats seem to have the most number of independent candidates. We are seeing activists, professionals, and also politicians drop by their parties. What do you make of this, and how will they make an impact in the ballot box?
Yeah, we are talking about urban areas in which the voters there is a bit urbanized. They have fair access to information, and of course, they are issue-based or need-based voters rather than loyal to any party or depending on who's the candidate when deciding in the ballot box. So for me, it is no wonder when we are seeing more and more independent candidates flooding the urban areas and offering themselves to contest in an election. Due to the fact that Batu, as we speak now, have written in history when Prabhakaran as an independent candidate on the last GE14 won the seat due to the fact that Tian Chua, the incumbent, were not eligible to contest on that election. And of course, the situation during the GE15, which is not siding the Barisan Nasional candidates so much, and those Prabhakaran emerged as a victor during the time. And this will be a lesson learned to everybody that this is a seat where everybody may stand a chance to win it. And of course, with a good strategy and a good exposure, or maybe with a good, what we call walkabout, personal touch and everything, they can wrestle this with, and of course, pitting the former MP as well as the current MP all together will make voters there a bit difficult to compare between themselves, and finally they may choose the independent candidates instead.
I think at the end, what we're trying to see here is, will independent candidates stand a chance at all? Now, going back to Batu as an example, there are 4 independent candidates contesting in that seat alone. What do they have to offer voters as compared to those backed by their political parties, which they have more resources and more backing? What kind of difference can they make here?
Well, they can offer sincerity, I guess, by looking at their background. Yeah, as an influencer, as a lawyer, as an social activist. I believe people are more convinced that if they are coming with right parties instead of contesting as an independent candidate, they may offer some sincerity and good services to the people there. And of course, this Batu, as we speak now, Cynthia, pitting the incumbent and the former MP for Batu will definitely going to be comparing by the voters, and of course they are going to say that how they are going to compare the services, so on and so forth. And of course, by this variety of background in independent candidates, I believe sincerity is one of the things that they may offer, rather than, of course, coming for the candidates who are backed by resourceful parties, much more stable, and of course much more convincing, rather than the independent.